Hello, and welcome to the movie universe. I'm your host, Movie Fan. Today, I'll be talking about Sabrina the Teenage Witch. This may come as a real surprise to everyone, but I used to watch this show all the time. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it's a girl show, right? I suppose it really was, but I think it truly appealed to everyone, to be honest. But I'll get into that later. First, I'll give you the lowdown. As the title suggests, it's all about Sabrina, who is a teenage witch who's learning how to use her powers. She lives with her aunts Hilda and Zelda, and their talking cat, Salem Saberhagen. He's actually a warlock, but because he tried to take over the world, he was sentenced to be turned into a cat for 100 years. He actually does hate being a cat because, he cannot go to the cupboard or the fridge, and this guy loves to eat. Believe me. Just about every episode, there's always something involving food with him. Sabrina, she just goes through everyday life at home and at school with a little magic on the side, mostly during her training, but at the same time, she deals with a high school jerk who loves to act better than everyone else and all that kind of stuff, and she's always putting everybody down, really. And she often ends up becoming the person who gets the spells cast on her the most. She also has a long-running boyfriend, Harvey, who she eventually runs away with during the final episode. So as you might expect, it's your typical teenage girl stuff, only with the big difference of the fact that she's a witch. And technically, she is half mortal, which they bring up time and time again. Basically, her dad's a warlock and her mom is a mortal. We met her dad once, and during season 7, we did meet her mom, but we learned that apparently the witches put a decree on her that if they ever met, her mom would turn into a ball of wax. Obviously, the Witches' Council does not like it when warlocks and witches marry mortals. So that explains why we never met her mom until the final season, but why the heck her dad is out of the picture all the time, I have no idea. They never made that very clear. They said something about his work, but again, they were never very clear on that. Anyhow, it doesn't matter because I preferred that she lived with her aunts anyway because they were absolutely hilarious. Zelda Spellman, she's the smart one, and very beautiful, by the way. She comes up with all these plans to help everyone get out of a jam and all that stuff, while her sister Hilda Spellman, she just gets everyone into trouble because she's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but she can translate any language, even a monster language, believe it or not. And she also has her moments when she pulls people out of a jam because she really seems to know her stuff, even though she's pretty gullible. And then there's the real comedy relief in this show, Salem. He gets them into so much trouble, it is absolutely hilarious. Even when he's not getting them into trouble, he's always making wisecracks and doing all kinds of goofy things that just cracks me up like crazy. Like this, for instance.
Nobody knows that this stuff is real.
Excellent. Attention, kids. I urge you to accept me as your ruler.
Wow, the cat talks. Say, sure.
Loser. Loser.
And the girls aren't around.
Boys or boy cats?
Is there a difference?
Not really. Cats might be a tad more political.
Obviously, he was an animatronic puppet that they used, but there were times they also used a real cat when he was walking here and there. And he was so popular in the show that he had a lot of screen time. In fact, there's videos all over the place on YouTube showing the best of Salem. I'm not kidding. You can actually find all of his best moments on YouTube right now. And most of the best ones are the banter that he has between Sabrina, Hilda, and Zelda, and some other random characters that come out of the woodwork. But mostly, it's the girls that he has the best banter with. Because believe it or not, even though he can be a real pain in the neck, he's actually pretty helpful because he's actually given Sabrina some great advice on how to use her magic. That's not to say that he doesn't give her a bad spell that gets her into trouble every now and again, though. The show actually went on for 7 years, which is quite a good run for a TV series. And boy, there were a lot of laughs during that time, I'll tell you that right now. And you may not believe this, but the show was actually on 2 channels. And I'm not talking like syndication here. I'm talking like it started on one channel, then moved to the next. Originally it was on ABC. It was part of their TGIF lineup, right before Boy Meets World and You Wish and all that stuff. That went on from 1996 all the way to 2000 when they moved to the WB, and the final 3 seasons finished there. During that time, for 6 seasons, Sabrina lived with her aunts in Salem. By the 7th season, Caroline Rhea, who played Hilda, and the beautiful Beth Broderick, who played Zelda, left the show. Beth Broderick thought she'd given all she could to the show, and Caroline Rhea got her own show at the same time, so they left. So for season 7, which was the final season, she was in college. And believe it or not, on television, it was actually labeled Sabrina the College Years. But, that show could only go for so long in that sense without Hilda and Zelda. Fortunately, we still had Salem. He was still a big part of the show. He went with her. He was still getting into trouble, doing all kinds of stuff. And just like any other good show, it ran its course by the end of the year. It was a great show, definitely worth watching because of all the magic that happened. But mostly it was the cast that really made it happen. I know I say that a lot, but it's always true. Sabrina, who is played by the beautiful Melissa Joan Hart, she plays her perfectly. She is a teenager. She acts like a teenager. She does kooky things. She does stupid things like any other teenager would. She's trying to figure out what to do with herself. She's trying to be a good person. She's just, your typical average teenager. Hilda, who's played by Caroline Rhea, she lends a lot of good comedy to the show because she's so gullible. And yes, she's pretty helpful. And, she's always the type of person who tries to find the easy way out of a situation, even though it doesn't work at all. It gives you a lot of laughs when you see stuff like that happen. It's one of those things you have to kind of check out to really know what I'm talking about, And once again, Zelda, who is played by the beautiful Beth Broderick. Again, she's the intelligent one, but she does lend a lot to the show. She has some real good wisecracks. And she has certainly mastered her witchcraft a lot better than Sabrina and Hilda. But I think it's her wisecracks that gonna get me the most because, she could be so sensible about it all, and yet her sensible talk can really make you laugh. And then there was Salem, who was voiced by Nick Bakay. I love his voice. It just goes so perfectly with Salem. And believe it or not, they actually do a really good job with the animatronic puppet. Because, he matches up so well, the facial expressions are perfect, and the mouth moves in sync with Nick's voice. And again, it's mostly the wisecracks, the crying that he does when he's upset about something. It just goes something like this.
Please, one little egg, a scrap of sausage, the crumbs from your toast. Oh, but how I can't open the door.
Obviously, his cry is really funny, but it's his lines that are the most hilarious. You don't believe me? Check this out.
But Salem, if there's an emergency, you know where to call, right?
The money store?
Oh, don't you tickle me, you little stringy thingy, because I'm the boss, and I know.
Well, needless to say, SpaghettiOs.
That's not half bad.
Hey, when you spend 8 hours a day licking your butt, you come up with a good idea every now and again.
It's downright hilarious. You never know what Salem's going to do or say until it actually happens. And you are laughing your head off every time you see it. So once again, was it a girls' show? Well, yeah. But again, it appeals to everyone. I just gave you some pretty good reasons why. I mean, you got the aunts who were hilarious. You got Sabrina, who can be funny in her own way. And of course, Salem, who is the superb comedy relief in this show. I've said every possible thing I can to tell you how awesome he really is, and that will not do him justice completely. This is the kind of stuff that you have to see for yourself. So if you've never seen this show, you should look it up. You can actually find episodes on YouTube and on DVD, but mostly I think you'll want to look up the best moments of Salem. They are absolutely hilarious. You just type that in on YouTube and you'll find it. There is a lot to go through and you will be laughing for hours on end. Like I always say, if you got any time on your hands, check it out. I know you'll love it because you'll be cracking up like crazy. This is Movie Fan signing off.